Okay, welcome to our Friday Flex. And this is your host, Keith and Joseph. We are here with you on a nice, chilly Friday. But this discussion, this conversation is going to be really thought provoking, really humbling, as well as it'll be good to know, have certain things in perspective. So last week we talked about pacifiers, part one and part two. So this next series of discussions is going to be about reflections on death. And death is one of those conversations where it's the elephant in the room and it's loud, but nobody wants to talk about it.
That's true.
You know, and so we're going to put a microscope on the elephant.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about death and the humbling nature of its presence, as well as the fruits of its lessons. And so I want you all to sit back and enjoy, as well as in the comment section, please share your reflections and thoughts too as we discuss. So, hey Peggy. So reflections on death. I'll talk about most recent and how death, or the prospect of death, has shown its head in my life, and then my childhood, and then different elements. And right now in society, we see death right now in different parts of the world. So I'll share some realities.
So we're putting it.
And one of the things that we cannot run from is death. We can hide, but not too long.
You really can't hide either.
You know, we can try to
Delay it as much as
delay it.
possible.
Yes, delay it as much as possible
Through medical intervention. But eventually, no matter how hard we try to either prevent it, or you can just say run from it, it catches up to us. And is it appropriate to say it doesn't have any mercy? That may not sound right, but when it's time for us to pass, not everyone gets a second chance. You know how someone may pass and then they get, like, in short, maybe a new lease on life, and
Right.
they come back from the dead, as they may call it in medical terms, that they were pronounced dead, but then they come back. Not everyone is blessed in that fashion, you know. But when I say it doesn't have mercy, I don't mean it in a harsh sense, but just the fact that when one passes, that's it, you know. And then, of course, the obvious question that many of us may have is, well, what happens after we give up this body? But
Yeah, if we were to personify death, and give it attributes, one could say harsh.
yeah.
Even callous.
Cold sometimes.
There was a conversation thousands of years ago between two personalities, and it was between a king and this angelic being. And so this angelic being was asking this king a series of questions, and the king had to get it right, or certain family members were at stake. And so the king answers every question flawlessly. And then this angelic creature being asks, what is the most amazing thing in existence? So the king sits and thinks for a second. It's the most amazing thing. He says, the most amazing thing is that as I grow, I see my parents dying. I see my friends dying. I see other family members dying. I see those who are not related to me dying, neighbors or so. Right. And at the end of the day, I still don't think I will die.
There it is.
And so this angelic being says, yes, this is the most amazing thing, is that we see it all around us, but yet we think somehow or another that we are excluded from the number of victims death takes, or we think that somehow or another we're different. We're not like the rest of them. We got. I'm gonna live forever. It reminds me of this song, "Forever Young." Forever young, da-na-na-na-na, forever. Anyway, I don't know who sings the song, but we want to. The prospect of death is like, we don't want to think about that. We want to stay in this vessel, this biomechanical machine, in pristine health and in pristine beauty. Yeah. We don't want to grow old and do what other people do. We don't want the same demise as others.
Right.
And so it was. So I'll share the most recent events and perspectives and reflections on that. So I recently came back from California, and I was visiting a very good friend of mine. And my friend has been battling cancer for almost a decade now. And mind you, she's 37. And we think that death should be more mindful to try to go after someone below a certain age. Because sometimes we hear, oh, that's so young.
Yeah.
Too young.
It should be, 80s or 90s and up, something like
Let's just
this.
say after 100.
After 100.
You've lived well enough.
Yeah.
And so, but anything below 90 or 100 is like too young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's 37, and hold on, Tony mentioned something. Having had a near-death experience in my early 20s, actually having an out-of-body experience.
He wrote a book.
Okay. Let's get back to that. I want to make sure. But this is really good, Tony. I'll read this here in a second. So, 37 years old. So I go to California to see her, and I wasn't sure what kind of form of her I was going to see her in. Meaning, if anybody has experienced death, they know that death has a certain look, especially when it's been in the works.
Yeah.
So I was, I'm walking up the hospital steps, or sorry, taking the elevator. I got trapped in the elevator, by the way. I was going up to see my friend. It seemed like that distance between the hospital door and her room was so far, and I was like, wow, I was dreading the idea. I was like, how is she going to look? And I walk in, and she says, what took you so long? You know? And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, despite being within the grips of death, confirmed, here's my friend still with a sense of humor. And so that immediately put my mind to rest, or like it made me feel a little more easy about the situation.
Right.
So my time with Aaron was one in which I knew what my assignment was. I knew it was support. Above anything else, my time there was for support, because a few days prior to me arriving, my friend sent both her and another friend of mine a message saying, I'm probably not leaving the hospital. And to be with someone, to read this from someone that you're like this.
Since I think you've known her since your childhood.
Since childhood, yeah. And to realize this may be the last time, because I was the between the time that it took for me to hear from her family member that this may be it, to the time that I arrived was a week. I found out within a week, bought a ticket the same day, and I was like, I'm going, right? And in my mind, I was bracing, like maybe she may go before I get there. And I tell you, that was the most devastating experience, is to think that, well, I want to make it before she goes.
Right.
I don't want to make it after.
Right.
And so seeing that there was potential, I was just like, I was praying. I was like, okay, I know everyone has their time. And it's already there.
Right.
But let me see my friend one more time. So I get there, she says, what took you so long? And I'm like, okay. So I realized that what I can do, the best I can do, is support. So we spent hours, we spent the next couple days just going deep into the meaning of life and the beauty that life has, and the humbling nature of death. And so let me share just a couple things. Let me share a couple things with everybody. This is my conversation with my best friend. So she said, Keith, the things that I once thought were important are no longer important. the value that I gave to things, it is completely opposite. And because we were talking about how in society we find all these series like shows to binge on, or discussions, topics in which have no value within themselves, but they're kind of stimulating
in some sense, yeah.
in some sense, and so, but when we really break it down, they don't matter. And so I thought to myself, only a person who really understands the temporary nature of life can really address that these things that we do to distract us are not really valuable.
Distract us, or what we may consider to be pacifiers.
Pacifiers, correct.
You know.
And so she also mentions, she says that my relationships are now being built on not temporary experiences, but meaningful conversations, relationships, loving interactions, exchanges, instead of just how can I say, hi, bye, or just how you doing? How you doing? You know, kind of interactions.
Very shallow.
Very shallow.
And impersonal.
Impersonal.
You know.
Conversations. And so I was thinking to myself, wow, she spent 37 years of her life, or, you know, a great portion of her life investing in what she would probably say would be shallow relationships. When I came and my friend came with me, she said, "You all are my real friends." I remember that my mom's teacher said, "Be kind to treat those that you meet as if they will be with you at the time of death." And it's a different perspective shift, because it's like, we don't think about dying.
Right.
What to think about the extent of a relationship that we may have with somebody.
Right.
So these are already two concepts that we don't even think about.
Right.
But he very nicely merges the two concepts. Treat and act with with people you meet as if they're going to be with you at the time of death. And I said, if by any chance you outlive me, I need you to be there doing what I'm doing for you. So that just in case, however destiny may bring about things, just in case you're the only person that knows what I need at the time of death, I need you to do exactly what I'm doing for you now. Yeah. And so it was, when she mentioned these two perspectives or these two ideas, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is mind-blowing, in the sense of, it is only until we're gripped with the idea of our demise where that humility pill, and it's not even a small pill, it's a huge pill. It's an elephant-sized pill. It's a whale-sized pill, you know. blue whale. That's how large the pill is. We can't even swallow it, actually. We spend most of our life acting and operating in such a way as if we're not going to die.
Yeah.
And so when we were sitting together, I made sure that I was listening. And I made sure as I was speaking, I had her attention. Mm-hmm. And the thing about death is when somebody is close to it, they're hearing very, well. And so as we began to discuss very deep, thought-provoking, spiritually enlivening topics, I realized there's no better place for me right now than by her bedside. Yeah. It's funny as I was thinking as I was saying that. Oh, somebody may say, "You have a family, of course. There's better places to be." But my wife said, "Keith, you need to be there." She said, "I got this. I got this. You need to be there." And so, as I was there, I was just very grateful that I was in a position where I can have support.
Yeah.
Because while my friend is needing support, I also need support.
Yeah.
And I want to read Tony's message here real quick, and then I want you to share your thoughts. So, all right, so Tony mentioned, having a near-death experience in my early 20s and actually having an out-of-body experience, looking down at myself, I can share that any thoughts I had of existence just halting altogether at that point of death were torn to shreds that night. It wasn't scary or overwhelming. It made me feel like a child exploring again, seeking understanding. I wasn't able to see my friends who were in the room, just my own body, but I recognized it as me because my location in the room. I don't fear death or what's after. The dying part still scares me though. Will it be painful, quick, in my sleep? How much will I suffer? These are the questions that Bhakti Yoga helps me realize are unnecessary. I can only hope now that when my time comes, I can be aware enough to keep the holy names of God at the forefront of my mind and on my tongue. It's very beautiful. Mm-hmm. And Ebony says, "That's what we're here for, love. Glad you had this opportunity." So it was, I spent the night there 2 nights. And I thought to myself, wow, this is truly an honor. Yeah. Yeah. And call it coincidence. It may be coincidence. Who knows? But the second day I got there, the second day I was there, and I was reading to her very divine subject matter, her usage of 100% oxygen dependency dropped down to 75%. And those who don't know, when you're dependent on oxygen 100%, for them to drop it down is a good sign. And yesterday, she messaged the group, myself and another, and she said, it looks like I'll probably be getting out of here, meaning that she'll be able to go home to her children and have a new perspective on life. Because mind you, she's had this experience of cancer for almost a decade. but this is the most serious it's ever become because it's been in remission before. Peggy says the reality of death is now shaping my entire focus on living and in a good and important way, actually. And so seeing this message from my friend, I thought, wow, is it a new lease on life? Is it a new, how can I say, is it just by chance that the numbers drop or the dependency on oxygen drops after we have this heart-to-heart, after we have this deep developing, deep esoteric, discussion? Who knows? But the fact that she said before I left, to both myself and Devin, she said that you don't understand how you all being here with me at this time is the greatest thing I could have asked for. I can't even put in words how grateful that I am. And so I was thinking, we have that obligation to each other to be there for those we love if we have the opportunity, because sometimes that opportunity doesn't come because death can come like that. And so it's not like we can time it. Okay, I'm ready. Most of the time we weren't ready. Yeah. And so my reflection on that particular experience, and there's much more, but my particular perspective on this situation is that if we have this human form of life, and if you're hearing me right now, then you have a human form of life. Our goal is to understand the true nature of existence and why we're here. These are very simple questions. Deep.
But deep, yes. Simple but deep.
Simple but deep questions. And if we spend our whole life just running after those things which are temporary by nature within themselves, then we will be in a position in which we'll be very distraught when death comes. What would you like to share?
Death has always been I don't know what the word, fascinating subject matter to me. And what I mean by that is, as you were rightly pointing out, that when one is, in short, on their deathbed, they have realizations that if you were to ask any other person that is not on their deathbed, there may have been something matters that they have not considered in terms of what they value in life, what is important to them and what is no longer important to them, and so forth. And so I've been very fortunate in this lifetime to be with many people that are either in the hospital because they're, or hospice because they are on their deathbed, or just those who are very ill for whatever reason, and being able to spend time with them, pray with them, and read scriptures and so forth like this. And I've always found that time to be an honor, and in one sense, you can say best usage of my time, because I come out of that time with that person. I come out as a better person and with a new focus, in a more of a refined direction in life. For some of you that may know me, I lived in a monastery, and I was a monk and a priest for 10 years. And so from when someone has a child to weddings, someone is ill and sick, or even doing funerals, I've done it all. And yeah, I've cried a lot too, as a human, as a human being. We, it's natural to have emotions and, of course, to cry, even if you're not related to the person. But the fact that you know that person and everything that they've done and so forth. But in short, just pointing out that to have that opportunity to support someone in their time of need, that's one of the greatest gifts that anyone can give to another person. One thing that I would like to mention specifically, you had pointed out, which is true, we never know when someone is going to pass. And it's not like we can time it out and say, all right, perfect. I will be there roughly about 10 minutes, or whatever. You can't do that. And so, and I believe, if I recall properly, you mentioned that we don't have a chance, we don't have an opportunity, in those situations to catch up with someone before they die. We miss out. If they pass suddenly, could be an accident, could be, for whatever reason. But I was also thinking at the same time that we do have an opportunity and we do have a chance, and that time is now. Yes, there should always be joyous occasions and festive situations and so forth. It shouldn't be a morbid, conversation or anything of that nature in general. In other words, there are so many things to be excited about in life as well. But there should also be time set aside where deep, serious conversations, with gravity should be there as well. And again, I appreciate how you phrased it a little earlier, which is about having deep, meaningful relationships. Because there's been so many shallow relationships, and we've invested so much time, so much energy, so much resources in these shallow relationships, and there's nothing that we benefit or get out of such shallow relationships, because there really isn't much meaning there at all. It's interesting, and I hope this does not go off topic, but I was thinking a little earlier, before you had come into the office, was how when two people enter into a relationship, how a lot of times they enter into a relationship based on, you could say, false promises and almost like a business contract. And what I mean by that is this. There's a group years ago called After 7. The name of the song is called Ready or Not. And Babyface, everyone knows about Babyface, and so his brothers are in that group and they're singing. And so in that song, the first few lines of that song is, I'll give you the sun, the moon, the rain, the stars, and the mountains. And I will give you even more than that. I'll give you the whole world. And it's so interesting how in many relationships, we put forth these false promises, knowing very well that we do not have any of that at all to give. Like, how can I give what I don't have, right?
Right.
But then there's another song in French by a husband and wife group. They're blind. Husband and wife, they're both blind. Amadou and Miriam. And the name of the song is called Je pense à toi, meaning I think of you. And in short, you know, it's another love song, but it's a very honest love song. And what I mean by that is, in the song, he says, yes, some people may promise you the stars, some people may promise you the heavens, some people might promise you the world and everything like that, but I don't have any of that. I'm just poor and I just got a guitar. And I was thinking about that, wow, that's very honest. And I was thinking of different relationships, how some people, they get married and they say, oh, this is my high school sweetheart. But they don't have anything. Meaning, like, it's not like they have resources, money, or anything like that nature. So it made me wonder or question, what brings people together, or what caused people to stay together outside of people looking at each other based on resources, you know?
Yeah, or expectations. Yeah.
Or expectations.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, again, a lot of relationships are shallow, and unfortunately, sometimes we tend to associate or spend time with another person because if there's something that we can get from this person, like, oh, wow, this person has money. I want to be this person's friend because that means that we can go eat at this restaurant, we can go travel here, we can do all these different things. So it's not that the person is really there because they care about the other person. It's because they're exploiting that person's resources. And so just to think about how to actually have deep, meaningful relationships. And again, to treat someone in such a fashion that, yes, even though I may be meeting this person for the first time, this very person could be by my side, supporting me on my deathbed. And to have the type of relationship where that person would even want to come and see me on my deathbed, you know, it's like, it cannot be something shallow where I'm exploiting, manipulating, and taking advantage of that person.
Yeah.
It has to be something much more rich and profound and deeper than just, oh, this person is attractive or this person has these resources or whatever it may be. There has to be substance. There has to be something of great value that we see within each other, and that we interact in such a way that again, we're not looking at the other person for our own selfish or self-centered desires, to fulfill our own self-centered desires, but that we see the other person I mean, obviously much more than something mundane, but to really see the other person in a true, deeper, meaningful way. You know, not just for exploiting, but that here's someone that I can serve, here's someone that can serve me. You know, it's like a deep, meaningful relationship. Something that, again, you can say, in one sense, transcend a mundane relationship, but something that brings people together for a higher purpose. Almost as though one understands that there is more to life than just this body. But that there is even life beyond or after death, one can say, where no, this is my best friend. Not only now, but even after. You know, like that, like to live in a, I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but just to live with meaning, with intention, with purpose, and having our relationships with that same depth of meaning and purpose, and not to be on a shallow platform.
I remember reading this phrase, and it was thought provoking, and it said, if you want to be successful in material life, work as if you're never going to die, or hustle as if you're never going to die. And if you want to be successful in spiritual life, hustle as if you may die at any moment.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, wow, two different perspectives,
Right.
mindsets and so forth. And to think about, I'll mention, my wife and I were talking this morning, and I was telling her what the subject matter of today's discussion was going to be. And I was thinking, of course, about my most recent experience, but something, babe, I'll share this with others. And this is something that my wife told me some time ago, and it comes to mind quite often about the indiscriminate nature of death. And so my wife, mentioned how before she was born, her father was killed. In high school, a previous partner of hers was killed. And before 25, I believe, that a family member died. So she was thinking, all this death of young people, because I think her father was in his 20s or early 30s when he had been killed. And she was thinking, here I am young, however, death doesn't care about my age. I see all these people around me, these people that have conceived me, these people that have loved me, these people that have all these different varying degrees of relationships.
Right.
They're dying, and they're young. So it's like, maybe I could die at any moment. And we think that's such a morbid thought.
Someone would think.
Somebody would think. You think about death all the time? That's depressing. It depends on how you react to that.
Yeah.
How you operate your life in that way.
Yeah.
Because for one person it may be morbid, but for another person it may be enlivening.
And it should always be enlivening.
It should always be
I know that
enlivening.
may sound strange.
Yeah.
But no, it should always be enlivening, because when we take the reality in consideration that it could be any moment, any time, then you really want to make the best usage of your moment right now with those that are right next to you. And thus, that's why celebrations are very special. That's why any milestone in life is celebrated, because we know that at any moment, we can die. Any moment, any time, you never know. And it's true, what your wife was mentioning. I can think of so many people who, before they even graduated from high school, have passed. And I remember when my school, I was a senior at University of Detroit Jesuit High School and Academy, how they sent letters to everybody's homes, even regarding things like prom night and so forth. And they said, you know, please keep in mind. It was a very sober letter. I went to a private school, so all the priests and monks are sending letters out to every family and letting people know that, hey, be careful, be mindful, because a lot of seniors, although they passed all their classes, do not graduate because they were either partying or doing whatever, drunk driving, whatever it may be, and they passed away before they even received a diploma. And there were a lot of kids that had passed away. You know, at my high school at the time in 2001, we had the largest graduating class. Keep in mind that high school was around since 1877. So 2001 had the largest graduating class. There may have been larger classes after that. But in terms of the number of classmates that I've been with, because I was at that high school and I went to the academy for 1 year as well, so 4 + 1 = 5 years there.
She got good math.
Is that nearly half of those guys have already passed. Wow. I know that sounds crazy, but the school still sends out magazines and stuff like that. Wow. And it's so deep when my mother gives me a call and says, Joey, do you know this person? Do you know that person? And I'm like, yeah, I went to school with that person. Yeah, they passed, or this person had passed. Because in the magazines, it's called highlights magazines, it tells you all the people who passed in your graduating class, and of course classes before you and after you. And we get constant reminders of that. It's interesting. And so again, it's just that the time is now to really take advantage of, you know, really celebrating life, really expressing to another person that, hey, I love you, you know, because some people, they never hear that, you know, because sometimes as men we think, oh, it's not manly to tell another man, you know, you love them, or, you know, to hug someone or anything like that. Just give an example. Some men are like that. And, but it's deep to go throughout your whole entire life. You never get a chance to talk to somebody. And then what to speak of knowing that the person actually really cared about you and loved you. You know? And it's like, wow, what if I was informed of this a long time ago? You know? Or I never got a chance to tell this other person that I love them or care about them. And then how them knowing that someone actually really cared about them and loved them, how that could have changed the course of their life, or whatever may have been. So the moment is now. The time is now. Really, we don't have any excuses. Just like the one lady who was a realtor, she asked me, what is preventing you from buying a house? In a similar fashion, like anyone in sales, what is preventing you from sharing your heart with another person? You know, to reveal your heart and confidence to another person and let them know that, hey, wow, I really appreciate you, or thank you. You know, because again, it could be the last time you actually see that person. You know?
You mentioned something that kind of struck a chord, because since we don't know when or how or where or even why, we don't know these things, what we can at least do to those who we're close with is be transparent with them, be honest with them, reveal our hearts to them, as you mentioned. I was speaking with my sister yesterday, and she shared something with me that she normally never shares.
Don't share it here.
No, I waited.
Maintain that confidentiality.
I waited 38 years to hear this kind of vulnerability. So, of course, I'm not gonna share it. I don't got loose lips.
I heard they sink ships.
So she shared something with me, and I was like, thank you for sharing this aspect of your life. with me. Because all too often, with people that we care about or people that we feel have a certain image of us, we don't share elements of our life with them because we don't want them to see that side, even though it exists.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want them to see me like this, not like this.
I'm thinking about those chain and the master like I used to wear back in the day. I was like, I don't want nobody to know about that.
Keep these in somewhere sacred. So
I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy. Don't worry.
So she shares this information with me, and I'm immediately grateful because this could have easily been kind of just tucked under the rug, and the facade of everything being great could have been seen. But when you're close to somebody, sorry, there was a particle of spit that came out of my mouth when I was talking to you.
Mercy.
So,
Thank you for sharing. I love you too.
so
I really do, actually.
thank you, Joseph. I love you too.
Why I gotta say it like that?
So she shares this, and I'm thinking to myself, and I tell her, I said, thank you for revealing what was personal to you, which normally, and she said, Keith, I'm the big sister. I don't want to burden you with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, and we can wrap up with what you have to say.
Yeah.
She said, I don't want to burden you with what was difficult for me. And so I was just like, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're family. That's my homie, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, if I am experiencing difficulty, you want to know, wouldn't you? You know, so I told her, I said, you know, we get it honest. Our parents are from a generation in which to prevent us from worry, they may not say something that will give us worry even more so.
Right.
So I said, we got it honest, but we can break the cycle of putting up a facade. And so she said, okay. I said, because what you shared, the level of your transparency with me allows me to be even more transparent. Yeah. So I'll say that, and then whatever you say, we'll wrap up with that. Oh, you sound like you had something to say.
Oh, I do.
Okay, go ahead. But take your time.
No.
Take your time.
This aspect of burden, or we may feel that we are putting a burden onto another person. And I'll just mention that a lot of times we do feel that way in relationships, that, wow, I don't want to burden someone. But at the same time, it's actually better to share it with the person, because if it is not shared now and it becomes even a greater burden later, and then when it's too late to even do anything, then the person who could have done something, meaning the person who Maybe the Lord blessed this person with this ability or skill to do something. Maybe this person has the piece that's missing to this puzzle. But you thought, I don't want to burden anybody with helping me looking for this puzzle piece. When that other person has that key or that puzzle piece, that this is the piece that is missing that you're needing. And so that's why it's very important, again, with relationships, that we create that sacred space. We maintain the confidentiality, you know, again, so no loose lips, for lack of better words. Make that space sacred, that everyone that is in that space understands and knows without a doubt that their voice is heard and it has value. It matters. And for those conversations to actually take place, and yes, when we are sharing and we're giving, because of the level of transparency, it allows each of us to let our light shine brighter. Basically, to dispel darkness in this world. Because one thing I'll mention briefly is that every one of us is unique and different, and we have a gift, we have something to offer that no one else has. That is the uniqueness about being you or myself or anybody, that we have a gift, God-given gift, that no one else has. And so it's even that much more important for the transparency, because when we all collectively bring our gifts together, we have something amazing to contribute, not only in the relationship, but what to speak of those who outside of that sacred space, seeing that, they get inspired or enthused, and they want to take their relationships with their family members and loved ones and so forth to a greater level and to a deeper level as well. So even though, again, just to recap, that even though something may seem to be a burden, and we don't want to overwhelm or burden anyone, you never know. That person may very well have the answer to that mystery, or they may have the piece to that puzzle that we're needing. You know, and that means that we all progress. We all can be able to move forward. Otherwise, we just remain stagnant.
Right. Yeah. Being, you mentioned about transparency and it spreading out to those, or potentially that transparency encouraging others. And this is what these sessions are for. These are what these discussions are for. These flexes are for us, because we're having transparent discussions and we're making this available to others so that they can somehow or another be encouraged in some way, shape, or form. So this will probably be a 3 or 4 part, session, because we haven't even, we're still at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for your time, your attention. Hopefully, if you are receiving some type of benefit from these discussions, please share, please like, please comment. And until next time, flex. All right, take care.